Hey guys, this is Scottlecat18, and today we have a review of King of the Hill Season 1. Now, if you know me, I absolutely love this show. The brainchild of Simpsons alum Greg Daniels and Mike Judge, it centers on the fictional town of Arlen, Texas, and the citizens there within, such as Hank Hill, his son Bobby, his wife Peggy, Dale Bill Boomhauer, their niece Luanne, and many others. Let's start off with Pilot. After an accident during a Little League game, Bobby is given a black eye and is mistakenly believed to be a victim of Hank's abuse. Next, a CPS agent is called to check on the Hill family and the other residents of Rainy Street. After Twig Boy declares Arlen to be Redneck City, Hank is told to control his anger, which leads to Bobby believing he can get away with whatever he wants. The social services representative then comes to tell Peggy that the investigation was called off in person. Bobby tells that he prefers his dad to be submissive because he feels that ordinarily Hank's love has to be earned. The episode works very well as an introduction to the characters and the main status quo of the series. Luanne, Peggy's niece, is living with her aunt and uncle indefinitely after her mother stabs her father with a fork. In addition, we briefly see that Hank's father, who bravely killed, fit him in, and gave his shins for our freedom, was emotionally distant from Hank, even when he was but a child. To top it off, we get some brilliant interactions between the four guys, such as their conversation about Hank's truck. Overall, this is a worthy pilot that helps give intros to its wonderful cast of characters. Square Peg. Peggy is called on to be a teacher of sexual education. Really hitting on the adult aspects early, eh? Hank is greatly concerned, given that he feels teaching the facts of life is the parent's job. Conflict mainly arises because Peggy feels that she is responsible for the teaching of young minds, especially since she won Substitute Teacher of the Year. This installment features a great back and forth between Hank and Peggy's outlook on education. But another great highlight is comedy, like Dale's threatening call to the original teacher, the tree being pruned a bit too much, and Hank's teaching of the double standard. The Order of the Straight Arrow. The guys take Bobby, Joseph, Randy, and some other kid on the Straight Arrow camping trip, where they intend to mess with them boys as a form of hazing. Things turn awry when a whooping crane is thought to be killed during a snipe hunt. With environmentalists crawling around the grounds, Hank needs to find a way to leave and bury the crane without arousing suspicion. Just as they were nearly arrested, it's revealed that the crane was merely unconscious, letting the guys get off scot-free. Meanwhile, Peggy needs to covertly buy a new pair of shoes, given that her feet are rather large. I didn't add this in as some strange fantasy. This is the actual subplot. The Wimitanya joke is pretty clever, and it is important to note that John Redcorn appears for the first time, with, sadly, a different and now lost VA. Hank's Got The Willies. Hank is awoken from Willie Nelson dream number 3 when Bobby discordantly plays his guitar. Given Bobby's eccentricities, Hank decides to help Bobby find a hero like Willie Nelson. During a golf game, Bobby accidentally hits Willie Nelson on the head. The guys are starstruck by this, while Bobby intends to right his wrong when it becomes apparent that Willie's home is being repossessed. By yet another coincidence, Willie plays the same Game Boy game as Bobby. The boys are invited to a party with Dennis Hopper and Bob Dylan? By far the most unlike any other episode. Its absurdity is not for everyone, but it does feature some great jokes, like Howard Adderley and the running bleeding from the ears joke. The only point of contention I have is Peggy's jealousy of Betsy, Hank's guitar. Luanne's Saga. The first episode to center on Luanne. She is abruptly dumped by her boyfriend Buckley. Hank is then put in the foreign position of helping her deal with a breakup. Despite their bonding, Hank is eager to bring his niece into a brand new relationship against Peggy's wishes. While at first it seems Hank has found Luanne a perfect match in Wade, an all-American boy who loves propane and his mother, Luanne unexpectedly falls for Hank's friend Boomhauer. After a spat with Luanne, Peggy helps Hank understand that deep down he does truly love Luanne. In all, a fun episode, mainly for the interactions between Hank and Luanne. Hank's unmentionable problem. Problems arise when it is revealed that Hank is not, able to, talking like this will take forever. Hank is constipated. Yet he is in constant denial, given his uptight nature. A reluctant visit to the doctor reveals that his colon is clogged. Options are given that only embarrass Hank further. The episode's core strength is that, despite its comedic nature, King of the Hill still has a good deal of heart, and treats the situation seriously when it feels the need to, but gives comedy when it is needed also, like Hank's dream. Westie Side Story. New neighbors move into Rainy Street that hail from
Laos. Willie Ocean. It's a landlocked country in Southeast Asia. Population 4.7 million.
So, are you Chinese or Japanese?
While the Sufanusen phones do attempt to befriend the boys, paranoia runs amok when the hill dog, Ladybird, goes missing, along with Khan's dog, aptly named Doggy. The writers of this episode clearly had a fine line to walk, given that the new neighbors are shown to be generally abrasive, rather than a dislike coming from a place of ignorance. As Hank says, a good introduction to some amazing supporting players. Shins of the Father. Hank's father, Cotton, comes to town for Bobby's birthday, and proves to be an unpleasant influence on him. Cotton shares his outdated sexism to Bobby, which indirectly causes him to start a sexist riot. Hank is shown to worry about going against Cotton, and despite Cotton himself not reciprocating, a great point is made that a family can disagree but still love each other. A pretty good episode, and a good main introduction to Cotton outside of the first episode. Peggy the Boggle Champ. With her impressive skills at Boggle, Peggy is sent to the state championship in Dallas. While Hank just wants to go to a mower expo with his friends, Peggy asks that he be her coach for the tournament. While playing, Peggy runs into Sissy Cobb, an inconsiderate and fiercely competitive champion played by Laurie Metcalf.
Dang is not a word, that's just some backwoods patois.
Through his own methods, Hank intends to be there for his wife, despite his inner desire to attend the mower show. A good example of Hank's love for his wife, and there's also a B-plot of Bobby and Luanne going to great lengths to clean up a minuscule stain, bizarrely leading in Hank and Peggy to believe that Bobby and Luanne broke the no parties rule. An ending that personally feels a little more at home in The Simpsons, but not a bad episode overall by any means. Keeping Up with Our Joneses. Hank and Peggy start cleaning out tile grout when Luanne rushes in, saying that Ladybird got into her makeups. After this, Bobby and Joseph of course being the son of Nancy, Dale, and John Redcorn, go dumpster diving and find a spare cigarette. Hank comes up to the gas station powder room and is shocked to see the boys smoking. The two parents seem to have unique ways of teaching their children, as Dale has Joseph read big tobacco propaganda, whereas Hank has Bobby, and later himself, smoke an entire carton. Despite initial sickness, Bobby starts to feel withdrawal. And Hank, after quitting for nearly 13 years, now starts to fall back into old habits along with Peggy. Eventually, the reality of the nasty habit rears its ugly head, and Luanne helps the Hills, initially with a trick she used on Ladybird. After a dark and stormy night, the three do their best to not succumb to the withdrawal, and live to see a beautiful morning. One of my personal favorites for its great character study and understanding about the topic of nicotine. King of the Anthill. Hank is excited to fix up his lawn after Con insults his. Afterwards, Hank decides to re-sod his lawn with Raleigh St. Augustine. When Dale gets ready to check Hank's new lawn for infestation, Hank declines, despite the fact that Dale has
Read a book.
Dale's jealousy gets the best of him, and he devilishly decides to plant fire ants on Hank's lawn, which now he notices numerous stings and decides to use insects that kill the aforementioned fire ants by laying eggs in their heads. When Dale destroys the Echo Kill, Hank wakes up to find his lawn even more worse than it was initially. Out of seemingly nowhere, Bobby decides to take in a few of the fire ants, and now seems to be under the control of the fire ants queen. Hank notices this and decides there is only one reasonable course of action. Kick Dale's tuchus. When Dale notices Bobby's condition, he, with little thought of himself, decides to selflessly take the fire ant stings. With a small scare, the whole neighborhood decides to give Hank pieces of sod and celebrate Cinco de Mayo the right way. A brilliant and amazing episode. Plastic White Female. As the season finale, Bobby is nervous that Joseph is having a co-ed party and worries about being around the opposite sex. At the same time, Luanne is given a practice head at the beauty academy for her year-end exam. Hank starts to fret over Bobby's lack of interest when Luanne comes home with the aforementioned practice head. Bobby instantly becomes smitten and spends time getting strangely attached, using it to practice kissing in secret. The family remains oblivious until Peggy walks in on Bobby to her utter terror. Hank finds out and decides to put the head away until after Joseph's party. When Bobby decides to retrieve the head in the night, Hank lashes out and saws the head in half in anger. With it destroyed, Hank takes the place of the head and compliments Luanne on her haircut, resulting in a passing grade. As a sort of epilogue, Bobby briefly meets up with Connie and practices his first real kiss. His confidence boosted, he goes to the party and plays Spin the Bottle, unfortunately kissing Joseph's mom ultimately. A very strange episode, but not a terrible one by any means. Some of the memorable moments would include Hank standing up for Luanne, Peg walking in on Bobby, and a humorous animation error that briefly has Bobby's grape soda switched to Alamo beer. So, that's the first season of King of the Hill. Ultimately rough in a few places, but either way, it does serve as a good introduction to the characters with memorable plots that help establish its main center. So, next would probably be Season 2. Have a good time, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next time. Sorry this video took so long. Goodbye. Honkies. Gravy!